People are generally not aware how much they are influenced by certain things or other people. Even if it is something in a fleeting moment, if it possesses a strong cultural impetus, it's there to stay in the deep, dark layers of the subconscious. I realized this about myself as a musician for 20+ years, how my favorite artists would influence my music creating process. Considering Star Wars, major actors in interviews or trailers or even promotional media, carried away by one impetus from the offset, continued an error that we later then usher into our perception as true. James Earl Jones himself was recorded saying his own line incorrectly as, "Luke, I am your father." Are we to think that in his error of truncating the true line, his word trumps the recorded evidence? Which, by the way, is completely intact in the original 1980 audio as presented in my first video. He obviously made a mistake. Or, to sidestep the hyperbole, Mr. Jones was contextualizing and invoking the movie by using the most pertinent words of the line. He trimmed the fat. He used the most poignant aspect of that well-known scene without repeating it word for word, kept it personable and recognizable with the proper name Luke, slightly altering the line. Do you know what the best evidence is perfectly illustrating human whim and inadvertence? In this one particular video, Mr. Jones says, "When I first saw the dialogue that said, 'Luke, I am your father,' with the camera shot focus and zooming in on the original handwritten dialogue, what do we see?" I laughed when I first noticed this. The original script that Jones refers to while reciting the supposed line never said Luke. I laughed because Mandela Effect followers are actually using this as evidence that it was always, "Luke, I'm your father," as confirmed by Vader's voice himself. Yet in their excitement to prove something, they've all completely missed that Mr. Jones's account of the quote is inaccurate. The excuse that his memory reflects what it was, while the footage reflects the shift change, and again wanders into sifting of cherry-picked things from reality territory, ignoring causality. This piece of evidence does not necessarily settle what was actually said in the movie, but does tell us that Mr. Jones's memory about it in that particular video is not fully reliable. More importantly, it provides a glimpse into the time-old convention that what we're shown, what's in front of our eyes, and what is preferred to be recollected do not always align. Mr. Jones never technically repeated his line correctly, neither from the original script nor after the fact of the movie release, even though he believed it was the actual quote. But I'm not in any way stating that as a criticism, and in his defense, again, perhaps he wasn't trying to be super discerning, but simply telling a general account. But nevertheless, using this as proof of the Mandela Effect? No way. Again, I trust the original audio. Actors often confess to the fact they don't remember lines after they are done with the creation of the project. The actors, after all, are not the content creators per se. They are fulfilling a job, and more importantly, they're human beings who make mistakes. But even other individuals mistakenly repeated the wrong line, probably for the same reasons as above. Comedians, jokers, actors, and stars in other movies. Strange Brew, Tommy Boy, and Austin Powers, for example, are some that come to mind. These subcultural waves of influence shape not only the viewers of entertainment, but the actor's memory as well. Finding the actual original misquoter, or misquotes ground zero if you will, would likely be a bit difficult, especially during a time where there was less memorializing of things, unlike these days. It is, however, the case that we, as the viewers and consumers of entertainment, were and are mistaken on that quote, which is in truth, "Luke, no, I am your father." Make no mistake, this is in the original audio, as I demonstrated in my other video. I went ahead and created another demonstration of this this time with the visual so I can better show the words and their timing.
He told me you killed him.
No. I am your father.
He told me you killed him.
No.
He told me you killed him.
No.
These methods I use to listen to the audio do not obviously alter anything. I'm not editing what is being said. I'm in some sense isolating things to the best of my ability, maybe cleaning up a bit to decipher what we're hearing. This Star Wars example is a special case because both focal words Luke and no are present actually, and many people recount this quote half correctly. Some so-called expert sources who acknowledge this line being one of the most misquoted lines in movie history still get it wrong by reaffirming that Luke, I am your father was never said. Verbatim, that's true. The line was never said that way. But was Luke said? Absolutely. Was no always said? In fact, it was. The original audio tells us they also only got it half right. It's a special case because it involves an actual change, that is, revision, remastering, and edits as well as misinformation by influence and general confusion. So the level of confusion is twofold. First, is an about Luke or no, as in one or the other, and the second is the general oversight of the actual words used in this quote. Naturally, though, because of editing and the obscured Luke, what I would accept reasonably is everybody at least insisting on the quote having always been, "No, I am your father." That's a reasonable degree of being half right because of its prominence and clarity. In other words, in most editions, for most of the movie's existence, it has been more or less, "No, I am your father," as far as what was presented clearest and most frequently to us. Surrounding and future events also added to the mismemory. There was a radio adaptation of The Empire Strikes Back, and here Vader gets it closer to the actual quote. He says, "No, Luke, I am your father." This was the closest to the original I've heard since it includes both words, but in a different order. And in a novel by Kevin J. Anderson from 1994 called Jedi Search, Luke recalls the quote as, "Luke, I am your father." I also think other instances, such as the telepathy scene, where Vader does say Luke nice and clear, with no masking or covering up this time, adds to the collective memory of the word Luke, said in a distinct voice. Another good example of that is during the duel, about 35 seconds before he tells him, "No, I'm your father," Vader says, "Luke, you do not yet realize your importance." In a tantalizing moment, the utterance of Luke probably resonated and echoed in our brains while taking in the next 30 seconds, like watching a symphony as notes and tones pass, yet holding a comprehensive sequence of what was just heard. And similarly, 25 seconds after the famous quote, Vader succinctly says, Luke, again creating yet another impactful effect that remains in our memory but cogently is condensed to that quote as the moment. The popular bandied version of the quote, Luke, I am your father, was perpetuated by influential individuals, cradled by time, repeated incorrectly over and over, and reiterated by the fans. In this case, the audio did contain original, remembered words that were changed by eventual editing. Here's one piece of proof of thousands showing the decision to remaster the audio. And if you think the movie and music industry don't do edits and remasters often, you have no idea what goes on in the industry. The edited or remastered versions added to the confusion by doing away with or making Luke much less obvious, as seen here, for example. A drier, more distinct, less ambient edition from a 2000 VHS. An interesting side note is the fact that it is so easy to edit Darth Vader's dialogue since he was wearing a mask. The actual actor who played Vader was instructed to say Obi-Wan killed your father in place of I am your father, to keep the secret hidden from the actors and crew while filming. But you'd never know it because of the mask. Further obfuscation came from some people, famous at that, reiterating misinformation in form of the inaccurate quote, or the more commonly heard quote. The evidence of the original audio containing both the overlooked word Luke and the now more common heard word no, after so many edits with Luke essentially masked from the get-go, proves there's no Mandela Effect at play here. Even if you don't want to believe the audio proof, the other reasons mentioned are enough to have created suggestibility and confusion, having prompted the trickiness of perception and memory. So it seems to have originally been, Luke, no, I am your father, for a brief stint. Then, for a greater portion of the movie's existence, it's been mostly, no, I am your father. In between all that, from influence, merchandise, and mix-ups from books and radio adaptations, we have the assumed memory solely of, Luke, I am your father.